Okay. So how was the writing for you? How did you find the writing? Was it good? Was it easy?
Um, it was easy to a point, but
Yeah.
during my writing of it, I ended up connecting with a whole new Druid. And so it really kind of threw a wrench in things. So it was like I kind of like stopped. It was like I got blocked and I'd sit there and I'd be like, this is from my perspective, not their perspective. And it kind of it threw me. So I had to work through that a little bit and kind of figure out that realignment piece and then kind of get started on it again. So yeah, it was interesting how it kind of flowed through.
Wow. So what does that mean? Does that mean you connected with a different type of consciousness that you've never encountered before?
No, so it's the same consciousness. So it's the same Druid consciousness that I'd connected with. The difference is that I've always kind of worked with one main Druid. So I'll call it like particular energy. But I always felt all these others around me. And then I had connected with someone else who, instead of wearing all in brown cloaks, he's all in a white cloak. He feels very ancient, very high wisdom. And so this one was more feminine. And she felt more like a grandmother figure. And she felt very connected. I kept hearing the name Danu, Danu, and I'm like, okay, what? Like I hadn't heard that before. So then I'm like starting to scour, like, okay, let me dig through all of my research of who was this energy within their, consciousness and time on Earth. And so I kind of had to dig into that. So yeah, it was just different having her kind of pop in and be more front and forward, where I'm used to kind of the other two there, but then the collective all around. So.
Wow, that's exciting. I love hearing about how all the authors, well, the ones that I've spoken to so far, and even from previous books, they all have like and myself as well, like a personal journey that happens within doing this project. So, like there's always something that is important for you as well to experience while doing this. So maybe this is that for you, the connection with the new, type of figure, like, oh, that sounds exciting. How did you feel about that? How was that for you?
It was interesting. I
Yeah.
never get scared or worried or what is this? I'm like, okay, there's a reason why you're coming through. There's a reason why this is happening. Obviously there were things that she wanted to put in the book because the section that is channeled is kind of from almost from her perspective, although she does mention herself specifically. But that kind of comes through and I can feel more of that energy. So I'm excited to work with her more now that she's here. She's kind of gone into the background a little bit, so I know she'll pop in when she needs to. But it's kind of that balance of, I've channeled the divine feminine before, but it's not one that I really market or talk to people about. And so I feel like she's has a very similar energy and um just kind of her way of being, I guess, her energetic imprint has kind of some of those similar properties. So I feel like, that could be part of why this is coming in as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. I'm very interested to read more about the channeled bit because I love the divine feminine energy. It's always so open, it's always so receptive. It's very
Mhm.
like it's not always calm and quiet, but it can be, and there's so many different dynamics. It can be powerful one moment, it can be nurturing the next moment. Like you never
Mhm.
know, it depends on the day, it depends on the circumstance.
Hmm. Yeah, they're fun. It's a fun energy to work with, that's for sure. So a very, very strong and yet still nurturing and loving, but yet also really pushing you in one direction or another.
Wow. Oh, that's exciting. So, when you were done with all the writing and you look back at your chapter and you were like satisfied with it, how did that feel? Did that feel like you were complete? Everything that needed to be said was said. You are, happy with it, or were you like, "Oh, I wish I could write more. I wish I had more time or more, word allocation."
Yeah, there was a lot more I think I could have put into it, and there was more that I knew, like, okay, this could go in and that go in, but I really felt, and hearing more from, the druids that I work with, they're like, this is all that needs to be in here. They were very much on, you're done, and I would go back and I would reread it, and I'd be like, well, should I shift this? Should I shift? And they're like, you're done. So I know there's more in me to come out, but I felt for this, not knowing what any of the other chapters are about, that what I needed to put in there was exactly what was needed. Because I even went like, should I put more channeling in there? What more do you want to say? And they're like, nothing. Leave it. And I'm like, okay, okay. So
Wow. That's exciting. I don't know a lot about the Druid energy. What is it like? What Tell me more about it.
yeah. So it's very earth-based. So they were a consciousness that was on Earth. They worked with, they worked with the elements, herbs, energy healing. Jesus trained under them from an energy healing standpoint. His grandmother was one of their high priestesses for many, many centuries. And so they're just very connected to the earth. So they really talk a lot about, we came in as humans, we came in to have this human experience, to live this life, to grow and expand. And it's about how can we embrace that? How can we enjoy our humanness, our body that we have, where we came into on this earth, what is around us. And so, how can we embrace that human side and then really grow from it and live in that state of wellness and vibrancy that we're meant to be here? So many times, and I was this person too, I'd say, oh, I'm just this spiritual, this soul just having this human experience. And they're like, no, you are a human. Like your soul came in, you are human. Like embrace the humanity of yourself. Like go out and have fun. You don't have to sit there in meditation, 12 hours a day. Like go out and do things to embrace the human side. And so they kind of continue to kind of touch on that and just how to embrace the earth and all of the elements that it has here for us.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I love that so much. I remember early on in my spiritual journey, learning about these things and kind of going through my own stuff. I remember a time where I felt very pressured to be spiritual, like all the time. Oh, I need to be in meditation. If I'm not physically in doing my meditation, I need to be in a meditative state. I need to be, doing something like mentally, emotionally the whole time. I cannot just enjoy being human. Like I thought there was a time where I thought, wow, now that I am quote unquote awakened. I don't really like that word because it implies that there are people that are asleep, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So once
Yes.
I was like, oh, this changes everything now. I cannot switch off from that. Like I cannot just be human. And what I realized over time is that, like you just said, I am human. I came here to be human. And there's nothing wrong with that. And people who are kind of like guiding you away from being the human and embracing that humanness and experiencing it fully, or even just comparing yourself to some other type of being and in a less than sense, like, oh, I'm just a human, compared to whoever, oh, look at this Pleiadian or whatever, like, and there are a lot of people coming into the forefront now, people that are hybrids or this or that, and it, not all of them, but sometimes it may give you a sense of like being just human is kind of not good enough. So I
Mhm.
love that you are like an advocate for humanness, especially in this book that we're doing. It's all about the ET consciousness and all of that. And I told you from the beginning when I met you, I said it is so important to reinforce the fact that being human is just as important, just as vital in the big picture as anything else. It's
Right.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of surprised me when you reached out to me and you're like, because I'm like, how do I fit? I remember there were multiple times I'm calling you to be like, I don't know how I fit. And you're like, no, you fit. I don't know how either, but we know you do. And as I was writing the chapter, it made me realize that, people will say, oh, I connect with the Pleiadians. Like we look at these, I'll call them, other galactics, as, oh, they figured it out. They have so much better. Well, but they're not understanding what Earth has. We have duality here. We have separation here. We have all of these different things. Free will is something that we have very strongly here. And so these are things that these other places don't really have as much of or at all. And so, yeah, we can say we need to do it like them, but do they understand how the energy works here? And so there's a really good example in the chapter that came to me as I was writing. They were kind of like my druids were my druids pretty much wrote the whole thing, let's be honest about it. They were telling me, you've got to look at this. Like they took a great example of here on Earth, people living in two different places and how you can't take what they do apples for out, you're dealing with apples and oranges here. So how can you really embrace that? And that made a lot of sense to me of these other galactics have amazing information. They are really more forward on energy and on connection and telepathy and all of those things. And it's amazing, but we need to take the principles and see how do we apply it to what Earth has and handles and just allow for some of those things to open up. And I have a feeling if we do that, Earth is going to show us there's a whole lot more here than what we've realized. And if you look back at like the pyramids and the Roman ages, and I mean, all of those different civilizations that were on Earth, I think there's some really cool stuff that kind of Earth is just holding down a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I watch a lot of who's this guy? He goes around at different places and he looks at like ancient archaeological sites and all of these like ruins and things. He was underwater not so long ago and he found, well, he didn't find it, but he went and explored it, like these ancient ruins that are underwater near like coastlines and stuff. And he explores and kind of looks into these ancient cultures. And Atlantis is always the big one, and it's like I am so fascinated by that, but these were humans. These were
Hmm.
not, some kind of extraterrestrials who came. Perhaps they were influences and they were obviously guiding people, but it was humans that were doing these things.
Hmm.
And just like today, there are humans that are doing these things. Even our scientists who, you know, influence a lot of things that we have today, they were influenced by certain energies, but they did the work. It was
Hmm.
humans who said, okay, how can I take this and make it relevant or make it work in my society right now? And that's what
Yeah,
we need to do, I
yeah.
was listening to this channeling a while ago. I don't know who the channel was or what they were saying. I don't remember. But this ET consciousness was coming through, and they were saying they learn a lot from humans because we are like like these what is the words he used? I don't know if he said masters, but it was a word that implied that of limitation because we had so much limitation, we have so much limitation, we come here with all these limitations, with the forgetfulness of these understand, like we forget that we impose these limitations on ourselves, and then we create amazing things, we do amazing things, we ascend, we remember, out of nothing, out of nowhere, we remember, and then we help each other. By us being ourselves, we help each other. And it's like, that is true. I didn't think of it like we could help other more evolved, in our perspective, more evolved consciousness learn from us because again, we are just humans according to certain understandings. So I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think what other, beings and galactics can pick up from us is is huge because we have had to figure out a lot on our own. We do have things that are um in some ways working against us, I guess, make it a little harder. You have, free will, you have separation, you have all of these other things that are here. We're not at a higher, fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. We're at a lower level density, and that's okay, but it does make them realize that we can do this. So I'm excited for us to grow and evolve and develop, and then who knows, maybe, in, years, centuries, millennia down the road, we'll be going and we'll be teaching everybody else about how we do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, let's say we have open contact and, these wonderful galactic family members and friends, they come and they teach us different things. And let's say they give us technology to do things. I would love to see us use that technology to learn more about ourselves, to advance like our I want to say medical field. I want to say all those things, but like more about the human of
Mhm.
us, like how do we work? How
Mhm.
how am I how am I doing me? you know,
Yeah, yeah,
how to say, but you know what I mean. It's like,
yeah.
it's just fascinating. It's mind blowing. If you look at the structure of the eye, or even like beside like the physical components of how they all work together, um, I was explaining to my daughter the other day, she's 7, and she is super interested in the whole pregnancy thing because, I'm 8 months
Mhm.
pregnant now. And she's like, oh, how many weeks? And can we Google what this means? And how big is the baby? And what fruit is the baby now? And she's all into this stuff. And she is like watching these YouTube videos on how the baby comes through the pelvis and all the different things and movements you can do. And she was like, but how? So I said to her, your body knows what to do. Like, this has been happening for ever, forever. Women have been giving birth forever. I'm not worried in the slightest of how things are going to happen. And it's like, how is our body so intelligent? How do we know? How is it just so perfect in its design? And then it goes back to like, okay, the creator of this beautiful being that I am. And I don't know how other consciousness reproduces, or how they have babies, or what their system is, or how that works. I'm sure it's just as beautiful. But
Mhm.
mine, yours, it's just
Yeah,
mind blowing. It's fascinating. I
yeah.
don't know. I love it.
No, it's good. It shows, the body and everything that I've learned from, my research and working with the druids and all that is the body is set up to really know what it needs. It cleans itself. We have an internal detox system. It can heal itself. It can replenish itself. It's about giving it what it needs to allow for that to happen. And I think one thing we don't do a lot with the body is we don't listen. We think, oh, well, what is it? And I always tell people when I'll talk to them, and they'll say, I'm just feeling off. It's like, okay, let's look at your body structure. What are you doing every day? How are you? And I'm like, they're like, well, I'm supposed to, exercise, 7 days a week or 5 days a week, whatever their number is that they gave me. And I'm like, but is that what your body wants? Or does it want high impact or does it want low impact? And it's like we don't listen to what we need, so I'm always like, okay, go inward. Let's do some muscle testing. Let's see what it is that you particularly need. Because I think we're in a society where it's like we're all saying, well, this is what the research says. This is what we're supposed to do. But everybody's body is different from everyone else. Our chemistry makeup, our DNA is different. So like you and I couldn't do the same things for maybe, what our body wants to eat, how much we want to move it, all of those things. So it's like we have to look at that construct of that. And so I think that's what, we'll also learn when these galactics come in is how they do things. We'll be like, well, but we're not all the same. We're all uniquely different. We can tell that because no two people, look the same. So,
Yes. Yeah, and not having that judgment of, oh, you are different. I need to be afraid of you. Or, oh, you are
mhm,
different. I need to stay away from you, or whatever. Like, accepting that the differences are what make us unique and what make us
mhm,
wonderful. If we all look the
right.
same, talk the same, act the same, if everything was the same, we would just need one being
Yep.
and you are
Hmm.
done. There's
Right.
no expansion in just all being the same. One
Hmm.
of the themes that I've noticed throughout doing this whole book and through meetings, with all of you guys and stuff, one of the things I've noticed, like a theme, is this idea of love your neighbor. It's like,
Hmm.
how are we going to accept any other kind of consciousness or being coming through or being physically present with us if we cannot even accept our neighbor or
Hmm.
ourselves? Like, oh, look at me, I am different, I have this kind of hair, I've got this kind of face, or whatever, and you are comparing yourself negatively to someone else. How are you going to be in that unconditionally loving and accepting energy with, like, I don't know, some other being who looks totally different, who's
Hmm.
maybe, I don't know, 10 feet tall or whatever, I
Hmm.
don't know, who's got wings and who's got a bug face, I don't know, anything is possible.
Right.
So it's like we've got so many, in my opinion, milestones to hit in terms of becoming unconditionally loving and accepting of ourselves and our fellow humans before we can get there. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm eager to get there because it will kind of maybe speed it up a little bit. I don't know. Or it could just be complete chaos.
Yeah.
I don't want that, but that's a possibility too.
Yeah. And I don't think we'll know till we get there. You know, with what comes in, we're not going to know. I mean, we haven't, like to your point, we haven't even fully embraced, other people around us or other things around us or the earth around us, like we haven't embraced any of that. So to have galactics come in, but I am a believer that everything happens when it's supposed to. There are no coincidences, only synchronicities. And so I do believe that, those higher energies and powers will, when it comes in, that's when it's meant to come in,
Yeah.
when the broader sense. And I think we've been prepping, the world for this. There's a lot of things that are showing like, oh, there are extraterrestrials, there are other galaxies, that I think people are slowly prepping other people on Earth to be like, okay, this is coming, get ready.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen some of these images that are becoming public, these beautiful, I don't know, I don't even know the names of these kind of like machines, these telescopes that are super powerful, and they
Mhm.
can see and they can map the sky, and like a tiny little block, there's like, I don't know, like 100 galaxies in that tiny little block or something. And
Yeah.
I look at this and I'm like, how do some people honestly believe that there's no other life out there? Like,
Mhm.
seriously, look at this image. All of these other galaxies that exist there. Some are even now they're discovering some objects that are coming from outside our galaxy
Mhm.
that are entering our galaxy, and they're like trying to study it and stuff. And I'm like, I see these things happening and I want to like shout from the rooftops, like, do you see what's going on? Do you see how it's progressing? Are you
Mhm.
getting ready? Are you preparing yourself? And that doesn't mean like, you need to be all into the whole ET thing. It doesn't mean that, but are you prepared to deal with the things that come up for you when you even think about these ideas? Because if like the fear is the first thing that comes up, maybe you should address that. Like, why is that such a sore topic for you? Why is it so,
Yeah.
kind of like triggering for you? Maybe, just maybe, addressing those things will positively affect other areas of your life. It's got
Mhm.
nothing to do with like ET stuff, perhaps, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, anytime you're triggered or something happens or you're judgmental or opinionated, it's like I always say, you need to look inward and say, why is that? That other person or that experience might be mirroring back to you. So what is it that you experience? Because, fear is a great one. There's been so much fear on earth in the last, 5 years, let's just say. And so as that has happened, it's like we're trying to get people out of this fear mode and say, if you can't change it, but let's not fear it. Let's understand it and see why you have that visceral reaction to it, and where that stems from. Is it from this life, a past life, energies, cords, karma, whatever it can be? But really look inward and go, okay, how can I shift that so that you don't have that fear? If another, galactic comes in, you're not, you see him on the street, you're like, oh my God, what is that? You're like, okay, because I'm part of my belief is that some of these galactics are already here, but they're taking a human form. And it's weird. I will look at people, whether it be online or on the street, or, I was even, hiking in Hawaii one time and I walked past a guy and I looked at a friend of mine and I go, that was a galactic. She goes, oh, for sure. Like I wasn't afraid of it. I was just like, he looked a little off. Like you could just tell by looking at him, and just the way he was dressed and where we were at. I'm like, you can't have a big leather coat on and fully clothed. I mean, we are a 3 mile hike in the jungle. This is hot here. And he was just standing there. And I'm like, yeah, so he got dropped off at the wrong spot. Or at the wrong spot, I think. So but it was, I think they're here. So it's just how can we go, okay, cool, and then just move on instead of that fear response.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of them are here because maybe one of the reasons could be they need to learn more about us. They need to monitor
Mhm.
us from
Mhm.
a peer perspective, because it's one thing, to be wherever and remotely learn. It's one thing, but to actually be in the experience, that's a
Yeah.
whole other thing. There's so many more things that they can learn. But what I've noticed as well, besides just them like hanging out and like observing humans, sometimes, so there's somebody that I had a meeting with when we were doing the previous book about ETs, the beings, and she said, well, she didn't end up being in the book, but she said that she was a hybrid. And I could tell by looking at her that there was something very different about her. And she she had this presence about her where she would look at me through Zoom, and I would feel like I need to tell her stuff that have nothing to do with anything we're talking about. Like, like not personal
Yeah,
things per
yeah, yeah.
se, but it's like I want to tell you stuff and I
Hmm.
want to give you insights into things. And she would sit there almost as if she's waiting for me to say something. And I don't know if I've come across any ETs in human form physically. Like I haven't, maybe I wasn't aware enough, but I wonder if I was sitting in a room with one, if I would have that same feeling. Like, let me just spill the beans about everything it is to be human that I know from my perspective, so you can make your reports.
Yeah. Yeah, you can figure it out. Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how it comes, but I think they're all here.
It's gonna be
In
fun.
my mind, they're all here already, and I don't know what anyone else is, and I'm not an ET person, a galactic person. I stay very earthly. That's the consciousness I work with. It's all about how can you embrace the elements in your body and all that. But I'm interested to see what some other people wrote to go.
Yeah.
What
Me
happens.
too. Me too. And I'm so excited that, and happy that you decided to write your chapter because, again, like I said, like the humanness of it is so important. We taking a lot of us take it out of the question, like, oh, my ET origins and I'm a star seed and this and that. And it's not that those things are not important, and it's not that those connections are not relevant, perhaps in this life, but you don't forget about your humanness is like the main thing, and in a book full of ET stuff, I'm so
Mhm.
happy that I have one section that is dedicated to I love being human. This is all the human stuff that you need to remember, and let's include it rather than exclude it in this
Right.
topic.
Yeah. I'm happy to be a part of it and was excited. It took me a while to figure out, am I supposed to be a part of this? And I kept hearing from, the druids. They're like, yeah, yeah, we want this. Come on, let's go. But yeah, I'm interested to see the placement of where I end up. I have a feeling like I already know where I'm going to be. Uh, but it's interesting to see kind of how the placement will come through. And the key, the overall overarching theme of the chapter, and I talk a lot about how I began to channel and how I met the Druid consciousness, because to me that was my experience. That was my galactic, like, whoa, who is this? Even though, they are very earthbound, but it's all about, how can you just embrace what they can teach us and learn and pull in the humanness and take what we can take, leave what we can't, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah. How did that all happen for you? How did you start channeling Druid consciousness? What happened?
Well, channeling for me happened unexpectedly. I had no idea it happened while I was reading tarot cards, so it just kind of was there. And then I kept noticing after I started channeling one of my guides, who our energies were more aligned, so it was easier for her and I. I kept noticing this being all in a dark cloak. Kind of looked like a monk, never really saw his face, had the hood up, and would just follow me around. And I'm like, what, who is this? And I'd ask for protections. If you're not of my highest and greatest good, you need to leave. I'd ask Archangel Michael, like, please remove him. And they'd always be like, him? Why? And I'm like, he's got to go. He's creepy. And they're like, oh, okay. But he'd be like, oh, I am. And he'd just like, maybe take 4 steps back. And in my idea, it was dark. It was creepy. I mean, think about all of the stuff we see about, scary stuff and spooky stuff. Like he kind of fit the bill. And so, it took me a while then, and I kept talking to friends. I'm like, who, like, this guy keeps following me around. And which was yet not uncommon because, when you're opening up psychically, there's a lot of energies around you that you see. And and then one day I heard I want to talk through you. And so I let him. Which I am very, very careful with who and what I channel because it is a major energy exchange. And I always, in my classes, I tell people like you need to get comfortable with one energy and then decide, is it right for you to move on to another one? And it came through, and then finally I was channeling him, but I wasn't getting who he was. And he said, but you need to figure it out. And then I was with a friend and she's like, is it a druid? And of course I go, what's a druid? And he goes, I heard you got it. And so then I started all this research in it, and it really started off my work with them on life purpose. It's like you're human, you came here, what's your purpose? Now it's evolving into how can you own your humanness? How can you live in vibrancy, and then going from illness to wellness while still living in your purpose and still using kind of the ancient wisdom we had before and re-embracing that through energy healing, through herbs, through the earth's energies, through all of those things to really live this amazing human life.
That is so beautiful. And it's funny because you judged him like, he's so weird and he's creepy and he's following me, just like we judge. We judge, based on movies and I don't know, creepy sci-fi books and, all these things.
Uh-huh.
And we judge too. So it's like,
Yeah. Oh, I was full on judging, going, get away. I don't want them. And I have to realize, like, we can't, that judgment was out of what I had been taught and learned through my time as a human. And then I'm started remembering all the times that I was a druid and how I used to dress like that and how I had energies like that. And then all of a sudden I've got this big green cloak that I come across. And it's just this sense of, yeah, so now, I always say, we're all still human. No one is perfect. I still have my moments of judgment, but I always try to say, you know what? I am not in their shoes. This is my perspective, but I'm not going to put it on them. And if it doesn't affect me, let it happen. So now as new energies show up and I see different things, I always say, are you of my highest and greatest good? If the answer is no, it's like you got to move on. And I don't have those come near me very often anymore. I think they kind of know there's a boundary there. And if they do come up, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's learn more about you. Tell me more about where you're at or how this is going. So,
yes. And you mentioned it earlier. You said that perhaps we would evolve to a point where maybe you didn't say it exactly like this, but this is what I heard. Perhaps
yeah.
that we would evolve to a point where we become ETs for a different, civilization or whatever. And perhaps they would judge us. They'd be like, what are these creepy looking things? And why are they, acting so weird and following me or whatever? And it's like, there will come a time from there's so many infinite perspectives that we can have and experiences that we can have, like from a spiritual perspective. Now it's just this human
Yeah.
perspective, right? But there's so many experiences we're gonna have for either being
Mhm.
judged or judging,
Yeah.
and it's like it's I don't know, it's fascinating for me because it would be so boring if everything was the same. Yet we judge when things are different, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Interesting.
we all have our own ideas of what's right and wrong, and I tell people like you've got to figure out what is right for and wrong for you, but you can't put that on someone else because you don't have their same experiences. And I am sure there are other, galactics looking down at us going, "What in the heck are they doing?" I mean, there's even times that I, as a human, I'm looking around going, "We did what?" Like what is happening here? But I also think it's part of our learning process. And so, as they can learn from us, they might see, what we did wrong, what we're doing right, how they can make that work in their world. And I think a big part of it is the whole free will piece. We all have this ability to make decisions on our own, and we're guided in different ways, but you can go, nope, no way, not going to do it. So,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that, or at least what I'm hearing is that's the thing that keeps throwing them for a loop is like, but you're supposed to do this, but you do that. It's like, well, we can do that.
Yeah, yeah, and we come to the brink of destroying ourselves each time also. They're probably
Hmm.
looking at it like, oh, they're so close. They're sitting on the edge of their seats with popcorn or something, being like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they almost did it again. It's like, I can only imagine what that must be like. So, I
Mhm.
mean, being human is fun for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I mean, I have a good life. I have nothing to complain about. I there were times where I did not have such a good life, when I was struggling and I had, no money, and there were things that were really difficult, and I had a lot of levels of different kinds of suffering that I experienced. And there's value in that too, but perhaps you don't see it at the time. It just feels
Yeah.
like an endless void of just depression and sadness and darkness. And I get that. I understand that that may be, difficult for a lot of people to deal with. But at the same time, it's like this is such a small, tiny drop in the ocean in terms of timeline. You think
Yeah.
70 years or 80 years being alive is like a long time. It is not. You are an infinite being, like you are literally infinite. And after this
Right.
experience, you are never going to have this experience again. Like, I
Mhm.
won't be me, this
Yeah.
me, ever again.
Right. Yeah, this consciousness will, in who we are will be different. And so, the good thing is that you took all of those harder times and those learnings and you learned from it, you grew from it to be able to get where you are today and embrace the, yeah, I've gotten past those, so now how can I move forward? But yeah, the being that we are specifically, I even say that our soul as it exactly is today will never be identical to what it was in the past or the future because we pick up different things that we want to work on, different skills. We might grab something from this lifetime, from that lifetime, or something brand new. But it's continually to evolve. And when people say, their soul is fragmented, it's like, well, in a way, yeah. I mean, if we, all of these, if we picked up all the skills and all of the learnings from every single lifetime, I mean, in some ways, is there what more is there to learn? But it's all about like understanding, like, be proud of who you are and own this being you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to really allow for you to evolve it and to be the person that you want to be, because it is a powerful journey we're on. So it's about embracing it and enjoying it. And even when I have those moments of like, I am done, I am so frustrated, something went horribly wrong. I just, get past the human side, get all my frustration out, and then I go, okay, but let's look at this. How can we make this better? How can we get past this? And how can we not worry about it, not have fear around whatever it is, and just say, we're gonna get through this and just trust. We trust in not only ourselves, but our guides and the universe and what's meant for us.
Yeah, trust and know. And know for me was a big one because I like to remember or kind of remind myself that the way I was created, like in terms of my human form and me here now, was so perfect for the purpose that I came for, the agreements that I made, the things that
Mhm.
I said that I was going to do. I was, setting out when I was doing my plans or, blueprint or whatever you want to call it. When I came here, I'm so perfectly designed for that. If
Mhm.
I'm not doing that, I will feel misalignment. But if
Right.
I'm doing that, it's so effortless, it's so easy,
Mhm.
it's so
Mhm.
enjoyable. Yes, there are
Right.
moments of challenges, of course, because this is Earth. We are humans.
Mhm.
There will be challenges because we need to grow and learn and expand. But it's like, the word is like, I don't know, it's just something that is so natural that
Yeah.
comes out of you when you are being who you are meant to be. And I don't mean this like, oh, follow your purpose and, all these, I'm not meaning it like in a
Mhm.
airy, flary sense. I mean it like physically grounded in your human
Mhm.
form. What are you doing to improve your life, the lives of others? How are you physically, mentally, emotionally supporting your fellow humans around you? How are you
Right.
leaving this world in a better state than you found it when you were born into it? Like, what are you
Exactly.
doing? What are you
Hmm.
physically doing? If you're just gonna, be satisfied with going to a job and living your life and, just wasting away on weekends and complaining about everything, then that's up to you. That's your
Hmm.
free will to do so. But on the other hand, you do have other options. Like, that's not the
Hmm.
only option. For so many years, people believe that's the only thing that they can do. And there are
Right.
so many other options. Like literally, if you can just release the fear enough to explore other things, you will know who you are. You will learn.
Hmm.
It's easy. It comes naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about, I think you hit it right on. It's about embracing where we're at and the humanness and just being true to who you are, which is different than the next person next to you. But, embracing that experience because the experiences we have will be not the same as they will be in the future. So, just allow for that to really come in and flow.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this book. Are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited. I'm excited to see where everyone else, what everyone else's take on it was.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is very galactic in their true experiences of close contact.
Yes.
But
And this will
so
be your first published work, right?
No, I have a workbook. So it's a life purpose workbook that focuses on each of the elements. It's very similar to what I do when I work with clients on a weekly basis. And so I kind of put all of that into a book so people can kind of work their way through it and just try to find more of that alignment. I'm in the process of updating all of that right now. So
Good.
there will be an update to it. But yeah, I already have that out. And then I've got a journal out for people too.
Oh, that's so exciting. I didn't know that. You should send me those links so I can put it in the
Okay.
description,
Yeah,
of this
absolutely.
video. Yeah, and all that. And maybe I can even list it on the NDI website. People are always asking me for resources. Where can I find this and where can I find that? So if I
Yeah,
have it listed, I'll just send them there. So send me all your links.
absolutely. That'd be great. Yes, I will send them all over to you.
So exciting. Yeah, I'm very excited too. I'm in the process now. We're doing the formatting. So, making
Okay.
everything look
Okay.
pretty and look nice. So I'm getting to read all the chapters now and seeing like, oh, where everything fits together. But so far, it's like the what I have read, I'm learning so much because I didn't know a lot about this topic. I learned a little bit more when I did the beings book, and I'm learning so much more now with this book. And it's like there are hints that are coming to me, certain downloads that are coming to me, hinting about the follow-up topics, that
Oh,
are gonna come, but I'm not sure yet because I didn't yet do the whole QHHT thing and get all the information.
yeah.
And I also, funny enough, I also got a download that I shouldn't rely on that. I shouldn't keep relying on the QHHT for all the information to come through. Like I should trust when I get
Mhm.
it. So that's interesting. I didn't think
Mhm.
it. I knew that would come, but I didn't think it would happen so soon because this is only
Yeah.
what the fifth book. It's only the fifth time I've done it. So
Well, yeah, obviously you're ready to jump into the next spot. So,
yeah.
yeah. Have you read my chapter yet or not yet?
No, not yet. I think I've
Okay.
read bits and pieces of it, but I haven't start to finish.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm getting excited. I'm gonna read that soon, probably tomorrow, maybe tonight.
Oh,
I'll keep it as my bedtime story for the night.
yeah, that is scary. That is like, yeah. When you figure out where it's gonna go, let me know. I think I know where it is, but I want to get your take on it first. So,
Okay. Okay. Where would you like to be?
um, I'm just been told where they think it'll go. So
Hmm.
I just want to see if they're right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a preference either. Sometimes, if I'm really not sure, I will just put everything in the formatting software and it will auto generate chapters like chapter one,
Yeah.
chapter, and I'm like, oh, this is actually perfect. I'm going to leave it just like
Yeah.
that. So sometimes that
Yeah.
happens. We'll see if that happens with this book.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it happens. Yeah, I don't have a preference on where it is. I know it'll flow. I know there's someone I need to be behind that maybe is a little more like out there, and then people need to like
Yes.
be ground back in. And I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
I keep hearing like I was like, is that at the end? And I keep hearing maybe not at the end, but
Mhm.
maybe it will end up at the last chapter. But there's someone, and I don't know who it is. They won't tell me, but I think there's someone in particular that it's like, oh yeah, you need to go right behind her.
Yeah,
So
there's definitely an element of peak and then grounding again. I've
yeah.
definitely seen that that's going to happen. But there are quite a few right now that are kind of like having the same similar vibe.
Okay.
not in terms of the content, but in terms of like the feeling you get when you read it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting, but it's going to be so good because you've met all the authors. They are amazing, they are wonderful. You are all doing such a good job at being yourselves and doing your thing. It's
Hmm.
inspiring, and I'm so happy to get to know all of you and just do this collaboration with all of you. I feel like the luckiest human in the world. I really do. I meet
No,
the
well,
best people.
well, I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of it.
Well, I
Uh,
didn't even have anything to do with that. I was just doing my job. So maybe you should thank your
yeah,
guides.
okay, yeah. Well, but as a human, you do have veto power. You're like, no, I don't really like her. I'm gonna move on from her. So
That is
I
so
appreciate
funny you bring that up because someone asked me today. They were supposed to be in the book, but they only read the email that I sent months ago, 3 days ago. And they like, oh my goodness, how far are you in this thing? Can I join still? And I'm like, we are almost at, publishing day.
yeah.
Like there's no time for you to do the whole thing. So maybe next time if it's meant to be, and they were like, how, so we were in the conversation and they were like, but so how do you like do you decide once you meet with the person if you don't like them, like you don't want to have them? And I
Mhm.
said, look, there are definite times where I need to screen for certain things because I've burnt my fingers before and I
Mhm.
haven't listened to my intuition when I was speaking to them for the first time and I got a little bit
Right.
of a red flag. But at the same time, I'm not allowed to have judgment and I'm not
Mhm.
allowed to have a personal opinion because I don't know what needs to come through them for this book and for the people that need to read it. Like, I'm not allowed to put a block between the message they have and the person that needs to receive it.
Right.
So it's such a fine balance between I'm with you, I like you giving me good vibes, and this is a red flag, though I did get your name loud and clear.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's a very
Yeah.
weird place to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes the red flags only show themselves later in the process while we are writing or after we've written or even after publishing. You will see,
Hmm.
oh my goodness, I knew I shouldn't have got involved with that one, but it's too late. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah, absolutely. So,
so
yeah.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to chit chat with me today. I really
Of,
appreciate it.
of course, I'm happy to. And any links or anything you want me to share out or send out or marketing stuff, just let me know.
I will do
So,
so. I will
I'm
do
happy
so.
to do
And send
all
me
of
all
that.
your links and things. I'll put it in the description of this video when
Okay.
I put it up on YouTube. And yeah, I'll put the links to all the pre-orders and everything as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Of course. Well, thanks so much, Mir. Have a good evening, I guess. Your
You
evening
too.
already. All
Bye.
right. Thanks. Yeah. Bye.